He's removing all 17 sitting members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and will be replacing them with new members. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also welcome back Houston ISD Superintendent Mike Miles to discuss why HISD will remain under state control for at least 2 more years.
I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll also talk with Crystal Yang, founder and CEO of Audemy, an educational platform for blind and visually impaired students.
And as Ernie, Frank, and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, your questions, and of course, your concerns. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. After another day of protests yesterday over federal immigration raids, the streets of downtown Los Angeles have again calmed. Last night, President Trump ordered the mobilization of thousands more California National Guard troops. NPR's Adrian Florido says that's in addition to also saying he's deploying active duty Marines.
Well, the Defense Department said it's bringing 700 active duty Marines in from 29 Palms, a military base 150 miles east of LA. A defense official told NPR they will be working with the already deployed National Guard troops. So this is a combined 4,700 military troops being deployed to Los Angeles for what so far have been largely peaceful protests with flare-ups of violence and vandalism.
NPR's Adrian Florido reporting. Heard on Fox, House Speaker Mike Johnson defends President Trump.
We're starting with the dangerous illegal aliens, and that is exactly who the rioters and the politicians in California are trying to protect, and it's incredible. While Republicans are supporting the men and women of ICE through the One Big Beautiful Bill, Democrats are fighting for those illegal aliens and against law enforcement agents.
President Trump says the deployments are necessary to restore order. However, critics accuse the president of manufacturing chaos to his own political benefit. Medical groups and public health leaders are criticizing Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s decision to oust every member of a CDC panel on vaccines. Here's NPR's Will Stone.
The Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices makes recommendations to the CDC on who should get vaccines and when. Kennedy has the authority to replace anyone, but his move flies in the face of precedent and has alarmed many in the medical and public health establishment who worry this could clear the way for future decisions that undermine vaccine policy. Dr. Jonathan Temte at the University of Wisconsin was chair of the committee from 2012 to 2015.
Getting rid of 17 members and replacing them, are we just looking for a rubber stamp for an unscientific, uninformed approach?
Kennedy says the firings were necessary to restore confidence in vaccines and eliminate conflicts of interest. But Temte and other experts point out the committee has strong ethics rules. Will Stone, NPR News.
The Southern Baptist Convention's meeting this week in Dallas. More than 10,000 Southern Baptist leaders will consider policy changes for the largest Protestant denomination in the U.S. Bob Smetana of Religion News Service has more.
The delegates, known as messengers, will debate a proposal to ban churches with women pastors from the 12.7 million member denomination. A similar proposal failed last year. Delegates will also deal with legal bills from a sex abuse crisis and decide the fate of their public policy arm, which has clashed with Trump supporters. For NPR News, I'm Bob Smetana.
Story collaboration between NPR and Religion News Service. It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. As protests in Los Angeles have spiraled into sometimes violent confrontations between law enforcement and demonstrators, the Houston Police Department says it's aware of upcoming protests in our city. HPD spokesperson Shay Ocean says the department tries to maintain contact with protest organizers.
But all we work on is establishing relationships ahead of time to make sure protests or demonstrations are peaceful and everyone returns home safely. So our major priority is the safety of everybody, including the demonstrators.
He says HPD typically has both uniformed and undercover officers at protests, but he declined to share other operational details. Multiple demonstrations are slated to happen across the region this weekend, including at Houston City Hall on Saturday. Meanwhile, preliminary STAR test results are out. As News 88.7's Colleen de Guzman reports, officials with Houston ISD are celebrating improvements in all subjects of the state and, of course, exams.
U.S. history had the highest results, with 67% of students meeting grade level or above. That's 4 percentage points higher than last year. Biology had the biggest improvement, jumping from 54% meeting grade level last year to 63% this year. State-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles congratulated students on the district's YouTube channel.
If I were there, I would give you a high five because you are awesome and unstoppable, and your results are incredible.
As for the other subjects, a little more than half of students who took the algebra exam met grade level. 46% of students met grade level for English 1, and for English 2, 52%. I'm Colleen de Guzman, News 88.7.
And Conroe police say one of its officers shot a man yesterday who was allegedly swinging a machete around in a public park. This happened just before 8 o'clock last night. Multiple 911 calls reported seeing this take place. Officers say they tried to talk to the man, but police say he continued moving towards them, and that's when a single shot was fired. The suspect was transported to a hospital and considered stable. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello. And hello there, Houston. Big show with us today. In a moment, Celeste's going to introduce our first guest, but I'm going to jump the lead by saying it is the HISD Superintendent. The reason I'm saying that is because we would like your questions, comments, concerns for him to address. You can give us a call at 713-440-8870.
Yeah.
You can call or text. You can also email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
And last time he was here, we got a lot of questions after he left. So,
yes.
if you want to have a question, have it now. Let us know what you think.
And we have been receiving a lot of emails, and so you guys can keep sending those over, as well as Ernie said, you can text us at 713-440-8870. Last week, the Texas Education Agency announced that Houston ISD would remain under state control for at least 2 more years until June 1st, 2027. TEA Commissioner Mike Morath wrote in a news release that local feedback and a comprehensive evaluation of the district led him to the decision. He is also replacing 4 of the 9 HISD board members he installed in 2023. Mike Miles was appointed by Morath to be HISD superintendent when the state took over the district back in 2023. To tell us more about what we can expect for the next 2 years and what that will look like for the district under this intervention, we welcome Superintendent Miles to Hello Houston. Good morning and welcome back to Hello Houston.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Welcome.
So again, give us a call, 713-440-8870. So Superintendent Miles, while maybe it wasn't a big surprise to many, why is it necessary to do 2 more years when oftentimes you have said that you were in this position to get things in order and you were a steward to get us back in the right direction? From what we can tell, we're moving in the right direction. I'm just trying to understand how you will balance supporting change without simply just hanging around and being the superintendent for the next,
Yeah, I like that description, hanging around.
Yeah, you like the weather?
Hanging around.
It's not Colorado weather, is it?
No, this is not hang around weather. But I understand the question. Look, yes, we're making good progress, and we've done a lot. But, it takes a while to really transform a big organization. And you will remember we have 3 exit criteria. One is to have no schools with multiple years of D or F status. So we're talking about the accountability ratings. Every school gets an A, B, C, D, or an F. And we had 121 of them. So to think that we could have gotten out of DNF status in 2 years is remarkable. Now, we went down to 41 our first year, and this year it'll be lower. Once the accountability ratings come out this summer, we're sure it'll be fewer than 41, but I doubt it will be 0. And then there's the special education compliance and meeting the laws, and we're making good progress on that. But there's a lot of work to do. So that's number one. But number two, you can't just put in some reform elements and then just leave. It takes a while for those things to take hold. So we're changing things systemically.
What about the way you're going about it? There's been some complaints that it was not a scalpel. it was a chainsaw with the changes that were quick and they were strong and they probably scared a lot of people when they happened. Are you going to continue going at it that way? Are you now that we're where we are? What's the MO?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, they were bold and they needed to be. The problem with our profession is that we do piecemeal incremental reform that has not worked. And I think most people would recognize that there's massive problems here, not just achievement, systemically. So bold change needed to be done, and the way to do it was whole-scale systemic reform. So yes, a lot of changes all at one time. But this year, you saw fewer changes than you saw the first year. We actually did most of the changes, the tough stuff, the very first year, and this year we just continued to improve on that. So going forward, to answer your question, I don't think you're going to see as many changes. You're just going to see us continue to implement the changes that we started the first year.
Now, you're saying that you need more time based on for there to be real systematic change.
Yes.
Now, Millard Fillmore House was a superintendent only for 2 years before the state took over. So some people may say, why wasn't he given the opportunity to have 2 more years?
So in the end of the day, you have to look at the outcomes. And while it's unfair to say that a large system like this should change quickly. That is actually the task when you have a transformation, when you have a takeover. And so Millard House and others, no offense, the last elected board did not get the outcomes our kids needed.
It was tough with COVID. I mean, there was a lot of virtual learning, and you assume that some of those kids are going to get behind with virtual learning.
Well, COVID was in 2019. We're now in 2025. And so after COVID, yes, the immediate impact, but you have to improve the learning. Third Future Schools, the charter network I started, we got gains anyway. There's ways to do that. And so the point here is you need outcomes. You need them quickly. You don't have time for our kids not to get the outcomes that they need.
Now, Superintendent Miles, you said that 1 year of gains is good, but 2 years of consistent growth, that's a trend. So we see that we're moving in the right direction. But we also saw parents leaving in drastically high numbers. We saw skilled teachers left the industry or they went to private schools. Beloved principals were let go. There is more to a school district than just test scores. How are you going to make HISD a destination for parents, teachers, administrators to want to come back to the district?
So first, I challenge the notion that parents left in droves. That did not happen. You had the same enrollment decline as you have across the country, across the nation. Look at Dallas's enrollment, very similar to ours, and they're not under transformation or under takeover. So that impact on enrollment is for lots of different reasons. As far as administrators and teachers, they have stepped up. The question is, did the right administrators stay? Did we hire well? And are we improving the capacity of the staff to get outcomes? By the way, it's not just small improvement. This is the largest reform, growth and achievement this district has experienced last year, and now it's going to be as good this year. And that has never happened in the state of Texas. And we're looking at the data. We're going to research it, but we don't think anywhere in the country has there been this kind of growth and proficiency over 2 years. So this is not minor progress. This is real, huge, national level change. And we are getting the teachers and the staff. Teachers not leaving in droves. And the teachers that stayed and the teachers that came, we trained up, and they were able to get the highest growth ever. So we had only 48 teachers out of 10,500 teachers vacancies at the start of the school year. That means people want to come here. And we're going to see the similar numbers. Put that in comparison, before I got here, 644 teacher vacancies before the intervention. So what's the cause of that? Did everybody say teachers left in droves? We have teachers who want to be here and who are doing the job. They've stepped up. We need to congratulate the teachers and the kids for the success over the last 2 years, more than anything.
We keep hearing words about success and achievement, and I'm curious, I worry that we gauge that on test scores, that we look and see, they did better on the scores, therefore we are being successful. Am I misinterpreting that? And are we really teaching our students to be better educated or better at performing on tests?
So that's a great question, and the answer is nuance, and it's a both and. First, let's talk about the test scores. People are right to say it's not just about the scores, but think about it this way. The scores, what do the scores mean? We went from 38% of the kids proficient in Algebra 1 last year. The year before it was 32 or 34%. You have it in your chart. Now it's 51%. For the first time, we beat the state average. That's not just about scores. What that means is if you can do algebra, you're better prepared for year 2035 world and workplace. In fact, Good Reason Houston put out this report that after 6 years, the kids that graduated in 2017, only 17% were making a livable wage. And they say it's a lot of reasons, a lot of things you can do to improve that. One is improve your Algebra 1 scores. 2 is improve your English, 8th grade English scores. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about changing kids' lives, their ability to engage a different world and workplace. We are now above the state average in algebra. And whether you look at scores or their ability to do math, you don't want to do the STAR? Fine. Give me some other test then to say the kids can do math. Reading is similarly higher. So we are enabling kids to read, engage the world where they can go to college or have a high wage, high demand, high skilled job. That's what the scores mean. So is that the number one job? That is the number one job. But that's not the only success. That's not the only thing we're doing. We're the only district in the United States right now that has an Art of Thinking course. We don't get any credit for it. We don't get any scores for it. That are teaching kids critical thinking, information literacy, and problem solving. 130 schools have it, 3rd grade through 8th grade or through 10th grade, 3 times a week, 90 minutes each time. Huge investment. That's what we're doing for kids. We're one of the few districts that has AI in the workplace elective for every high schooler. Every high school that where kids want to have it, they can be in it. We're not getting anything, we're not getting a score from that. We are getting more kids into being college ready than ever before in this district. We have higher teacher salaries. We're training teachers better than ever before. We have the same amount or more, actually more, performance arts. In the NES schools, for example, we have what's called DIAD. 3,700 courses every week where outside people on 1099s, that's paid by the hour, come in to teach piano, dance, martial arts, yoga, 3,700 a week. So that's not test score. That's kids' experience. We just sent kids to Costa Rica and Panama, Boston, Washington, D.C. That's not a test score. Mm-hmm. That's growing their experiences, though. And so we're getting kids ready, and it's not just about the test score, and yet we're doing that well, too.
But Superintendent Miles, HISD, from a report from the Houston Chronicle, said that HISD has just 23 librarians for 274 schools. Can you talk to us about that?
Okay, so this is we'll talk about it just briefly because we've talked about it for the last 2 years, and the answer is still the same. It would be great if we had librarians. It'd be great if we had hundreds of people in the schools doing everything. But the real question is, can you get your kids to read better? And is it based on the science of reading? And so we're doing that, and you have to make choices, whether you have a science of reading teacher or an interventionist, or whether you have an after-school program or just a higher quality teacher. So the last district or the last administration and across the country, we like to throw things into programs and people that may or may not improve what kids need. So, I mean, it's time to start looking at how are we getting the reading scores up.
Yeah.
And
it's not,
how is
a
that
big
happening?
room full of books, is it?
That's right. I mean, that may be the old way of doing it. And then I'd ask 20 years ago, did you get the reading scores up for black and brown kids? And yet now we're doing that. So it's time to say, what is working? And let's applaud that. And let's applaud the kids rather than criticize some group that didn't get that we did in the past.
We are speaking with Superintendent Mike Miles of the Houston Independent School District, and we're taking your calls at 713-440-8870. We'll start off with Melissa from Northwest Houston. Melissa, what's on your mind?
Hello. Good morning. I'm just listening to this, and as a teacher in the trenches, I do not see what he is spouting. The test scores are basically what is driving a lot of schools. And so you're seeing a lot more test prep. The comment about, not having libraries, but the science of reading. What I see is a lot of teachers, qualified teachers, leaving because we are being micromanaged. IRT walkthroughs, I don't know, like 20 superintendent people coming in who are making $200,000 a year or more and aren't educators.
Question?
It's getting very difficult.
Melissa, before I send your comments over to the superintendent, I'm just curious, outside of test scores, how would you evaluate a child's success in school? What would be an alternative?
Problem solve. I do a lot of STEM labs, problem solving activities. I create my own tests. I'm a science teacher, so to me, the test scores, and this is what I tell my kids, my job depends on the work ethic of 10-year-olds. And when you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tests a year, they could have an off day.
Okay, Melissa, I'm going to stop you right there for a minute just so we give the superintendent time to respond.
So, again, our approach is comprehensive, and the teachers are stepping up, and the teachers are doing a great job. I don't care what anybody says. If you are demoralized and you don't like where you're at, you're not going to get the kinds of increases that we got. The most important variable is the teacher, and it's the effectiveness of the teacher. That's the most important variable. And so you have to say that when you get the increases that we've got that haven't been done anywhere, that the teachers are being more effective and their coaching helps. And no, the most effective teachers are not leaving. The scores prove that. If we had only ineffective teachers here, we wouldn't get the growth that we had. So we need effective teachers, and we need to applaud them because they've been doing a great job.
What's the attrition rate of the HISD graduates to college? How many are going to college?
So it's a nuanced question, but let me just give you the broad scope. I think we have about 65% of the kids going to post-secondary options, college, associate's degree. That's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is dropping out of college. So graduating from college. So you have to look at all of those factors.
Superintendent Miles, we did receive an email from Michael Johnson who asks, Superintendent Mike Miles, why did HISD quietly cut dual credit instructors' pay from $2,345 to $2,000 per semester class this year without any warning, justification, or communication, despite the contract stating we should be paid the full HCC adjunct rate? HCC raised adjunct pay to $2,700 per class, but HISD lowered hours. Why is HISD violating the contract and shortchanging teachers doing college-level work for our students? Several instructors are afraid to speak out due to clear pattern of retaliation under Mr. Miles' leadership.
So I don't know. Our employees get paid on from their evaluation, and so we have a pay for performance plan coming. Other than that, they get paid on currently a salary schedule, years of experience, and college credit. So that applies to everybody. If that's wrong, they can grieve that, and we pay them correctly. I don't know about the adjunct professors at HCC, and so sorry I can't answer that question.
The number here is 713-440-8870. Shay from outside the loop is calling with a question. Shay, what's on your mind?
Hi, we keep talking about sort of the global statistics of HISD on the macro level, but on the micro level, there's a lot of very successful schools. My daughter just graduated from Kinder High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. There are kids going to Yale, Stanford, Princeton, Northwestern, multiple kids to Rice, multiple to UT, multiple to Vanderbilt. And really, we just want our school left alone. Because on the micro level, we're really, really successful. Can you comment on that, please?
Yes, HSPVA has been left alone in the last 2 years, and they're sending the kids to Harvard and Yale, like you said. I've been there a couple times. Their instruction is strong, and the performance arts are strong. And so, by the way, on these results that we're getting, the non-NES schools are also improving. So we're closing the gap, yes, but we're not closing the gap by bringing down the A and B schools. We're closing the gap because the A and B schools are going up, and then the NES schools are growing more than the A and B schools. So that's the way to do it. And we have, you're right, the speaker is right that we have lots of good schools doing lots of good things. And for 2 years, they've been able to do those good things, and they're going to continue to be able to do those good things.
713-440-8870. Tara from Rice Military is on the line. Tara, what's your call?
I'm curious. I just visited with the school that my son, who's 5, going to go to in the fall. And the teachers informed us that they started with 28 kids and 25 kids. And even by the end of the year, they each had 25 kids in their class. It's my understanding that the state law says that there should be 22. And I'm curious how Mr. Miles thinks that he would manage a class of 5-year-olds for 8 hours during the day, and how he thinks they would learn well in that situation.
Tara, thank you for your call.
Fair
Superintendent.
Question. Well, first, I would not be successful because I wouldn't be effective teaching kindergartners and 5-year-olds. That takes a different skill set, and we're fortunate to have a whole bunch of teachers in the district who are willing and able and competent in doing that. At the same time, 25 kids is too many.
Right.
And it should be, if I'm not mistaken, it should be for kindergarten, we have 21 or 22 students should be in a classroom. And if it's more than that, there are exceptions. Most of our class sizes are smaller than the number that we set. But there are some schools out of the 160-some schools that we have that are elementary where it's the particular circumstances, you either have 25 in a class or you have 12 in a class. And so in that case, the teacher, I guess, was competent enough to do 28 kids or 25 kids instead of 22, but it should be 22.
But Superintendent Miles, how do you address that? I mean, obviously we understand it should be 22, but how are you addressing that for teachers that are walking into a school year with a over number of students.
So keep in mind that there are 10,500 teachers. So there are nuance or exceptional situations here and there, and you're always going to be fine. You're always going to have a class that's oversubscribed. But the way to address it is when we start the school year off, we set a number that says in the 3 through 8, it's 25 to 1. That's what we shoot for. We budget for that. We plan. We hire for that. And then in the lower grades, we have 22 to 1. And in many cases, we stop filling the class. Mm-hmm. Now, in some cases, some schools want to keep their enrollment up, and the principal probably made a decision to keep adding kids, figuring that the teacher could handle it, 25 instead of 22. So there are exceptions like that, and principals make some choices like that, and that's okay. I mean, as long as the kids are safe and as long as kids are getting the education they need.
713-440-8870. We're talking with Superintendent Mike Miles, and let's go to one more call right now. Alan is calling from Katy. Alan, what's on your mind?
Hello, I'd like to have a nickname for Superintendent Miles. I'm just going to call him Super.
Oh,
and
he seems to agree to that one.
We all held our breath a little bit, Alan. We're like, oh.
Alan, finish your question for us.
Okay, Super. I like to make bilingual education resources in Spanish and English. I'm totally bilingual, Spanish, English, English, Spanish. And worked in 30 countries around the world, spent 4 years total in Latin America, working on pipelines, training people in Spanish and English, training Spaniards all around the world. And I've got all these bilingual resources. What I'm working on right now mostly is Bilingual Pop Music International, Spanish, English, English, Spanish, all through the song. And when I put the words on the screen while the song's playing, the children in my class are most attentive, most quiet, and they love it. They always want another one. And I would like to get with Houston ISD to make this available.
Alan, we will pursue that. Our producers will grab your number, and we'll see what we can do with that.
to help you with that.
Thank you for calling. Remember, if you've got a question or comment for the superintendent, give us a call at 713-440-8870.
No, Superintendent Miles, there's been a lot of criticism around accountability and who holds you accountable. 4 board members were let go and replaced, and there's a lot of speculation it was because they questioned you or they were outspoken against perhaps something that you were trying to move forward. Can you explain their termination as to how did that decision come about?
Well, let me say this. The board of managers that we had for 2 years were responsible for moving this district from 121 DNF campuses to 41, the highest growth and achievement that the district has ever seen, and the repair of many of the systems. We're not done because it takes a long time to change some of these back office systems. And they did a great job on almost every major vote. They supported my administration. And so that doesn't come without discussion and debate and things like that. It's not all smooth sailing. But that's what that board of managers did. And I just have nothing but praise for them. And the community, they spent 2 years in the real trenches with a lot of criticism. I don't know if you were here the first board meeting when they hadn't done anything wrong or anything right. It's just, just a lot of yelling at them. And so hats off to them. The community owes them a debt of gratitude. I owe them a debt of gratitude. I don't know all the ins and outs for the new board members, and that I would leave to the Commissioner of Education.
I have a couple of more political questions for you.
Sure.
First is about the 10 Commandments on every classroom wall. The second is about getting rid of clubs where gender identity is a part of that club, mainly gay, straight alliances, but there are other kinds of clubs where people identify by not only sexual orientation, but perhaps race or ethnicity or religion. First of all, let's go to the 10 Commandments.
So, one of the things I think I'm not a politician, number one.
But you're going to have to deal with them.
And number two, we've done a lot over the last 2 years, and you notice that we get enough debate. around just reading, writing, math, science, and the stuff we're supposed to do. So I try to not get engaged in that. Here's what I can tell you. We're going to leave politics to the politicians. We'll leave it to the legislature. I won't break any law. That would be hubris on my part. If a law passes, we're gonna follow the letter of the law and do what needs to be done.
Has the governor or anyone reached out to someone like you and said, "What do you think about this?"
No. And one of the good things, and I know this may be a misconception out there, the governor and the commissioner do not tell me how to transfer in the district, and do not ask my advice on political.
But then who
issues.
enforces this if the governor says that he wants the 10 Commandments on the wall of every classroom? Who enforces it? You?
Yeah, if we will follow the law, yes, that'll be me, and the board and I will follow.
And the DEI clubs too. I mean, I remember when Klein High School started in 2000, the first gay straight alliance club. It's been there for 25 years. The number of kids who have not killed themselves because they had protections from their own school, gay straight alliances, is we'll never know. But I can tell you it's there.
Yeah, as a superintendent, I follow the legislation, and that's what I'll do. My main focus as a superintendent is reading, writing, math, science, year 2035 competencies. That's what I focus on. I'll let the politicians do the legislation.
The number here is 713-440-8870. If you've got questions, comments, give us a call.
Superintendent Miles, going back into the district and looking specifically at the past 2 years, what didn't go as planned during these past 2 years? And now with this extension, what do you plan to do different? Because, I mean, come on, there has to be some things that didn't quite go as planned, right? Don't tell me the plan went perfect.
We pay the Chronicle to answer your question, except that they do it for free. So you can read the papers to find out. But here's the real answer for your question. So one of the obvious things I think that didn't go as planned is the bond, and so hopefully at some point we'll revisit all the discussions around that. But with regard to the major things, and I'm talking about the transformation. Look at the Destination 2035 plan that was published by me, or written and given to the board. The week before we took over, and we have accomplished most of what's in there already, and so we've got a lot of work to do. Any change comes with fits and starts. It's 24,000 people. Communications is always a problem, especially in a media environment such as we have, and anywhere, not just Houston. The media environment has changed. Social media has changed. And so if could we do communications better? For sure. Could we do any number of things better? For sure. But the big things we got right. And that's why the kids are thriving.
And you talked about communication, and that was also one of the biggest criticisms by parents, was that they felt that a lot of decisions were being made behind scene meetings or closed door meetings. Can you talk to us about new tools, initiatives that the district plans to launch or to strengthen family communications ahead of this next school year?
Yeah, so there are tools that we are working on, and we will we'll launch, thank you, this summer. So, for example, a new website. The website that we had 88,000 pages, and and it was just patched together over a decade. So that's not user friendly, and so we will have a user friendly one. We have this communications platform called Parent Square now, because parents have so many different apps and so many different ways that schools have communicated, and there's no really one source that seems the best. So we're going to move to Parent Square. That will help. You probably know that we started HISD Now. That's our own live stream news reporting, and that we have close to 40,000 subscribers. We think we'll hit 80,000 by December, and when we get that many subscribers, that will also be a way to get the correct information. It's not a problem with us only, right? We can give out as much information as we want, but when there's other sources and a penchant to believe what's on social media that we didn't see 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And no matter what we do, even with our live streaming, we can't get the information out first. I mean, some information we can, but something pops up on social media and boom, there it is, and it spreads.
Let me follow this up with a little twist on that. How important is community trust for you as opposed to the proof is in the pudding, test scores? Where do you fall on that?
It's a both and, of course. I think as we move along, people will see that there is no hidden agenda, that there is no attempt to undermine this group or that group or be political or support somebody else's politics. They will see, and this is what builds trust, that your actions are follows the intent, which is to help kids and put kids first.
Following up on that, I think what hurt the bond issue was the accusations of electioneering. Mm-hmm. And Sean Tier was looking at that. Where did all that end up?
Yeah, I don't know if that hurt the bond issue.
Well, I don't think it helped it.
I don't think there was a lot of focus, and it's not a true story anyway. Where do we stand on that?
Well, in terms of trust, I mean, a community trust. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, that has to be built, and that sort of tore it down a little bit, whether it was true or false.
Yeah, I don't know about that in particular, but I could say this. I think an intervention team, we had disadvantages from the very beginning, people not liking the fact that there was a takeover. Mm-hmm. And the onus is on us to build trust, and one of the ways to do it is to keep doing the things that we've been doing, which is focusing on our kids, providing a better education for the kids, getting the discipline under control, getting the financial situation under control because we were left a real mess financially, and so forth and so on. And I think that consistency, you already see it and feel it, by the way. There's a lot fewer, grievances and protests this year than there were last year, and next year there'll be even fewer.
The number here, we're talking with HISD Superintendent Mike Miles. It's 713-440-8870. We're going to grab a couple more calls. Please, callers, keep your comments quick and to the point so we can move through them. Let's start off with Kevin from the north side. Kevin, what's on your mind?
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. Well, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Real quick, you were talking about the bond issue. I think what hurt the bond issue is the fact of no accountability. As a voter, that was the only avenue that I had, it was to vote the bond down because there is no accountability. There's been a movement around the state of Texas about parents' choice. But a takeover gives me no choice because I cannot elect my school board member. Who can elect the superintendent? We can't come to the school board and threaten, hey, I'm not going to vote for you anymore because that's out of our hands now, which I feel like is the most anti-democratic thing that can happen. So when you're telling me that you want my tax money to fund schools or do whatever you want to do, which I can't even come and make sure that that you are accountable for that. You want the money, but I don't have any access. I don't have any voice. You see what I'm saying? So that's what hurt the bond because of the accountability issue.
Okay, Kevin, I've got to drop you there, but thank you for calling. Next up, Richard from West Side. Richard,
can I just comment? Sure. I think that's a fair comment from Kevin. And the onus on us is to try to get out of this intervention status as quick as possible. I think people see that we're trying to do that. We're not dragging our feet. Yeah. And if we show that we're trying to get out of the status and return it to an elected board, and maybe as this phase of the intervention ends and elected board starts transitioning on, I think people will see that yes, we're not trying to stay here longer than we can.
And I'm sorry, I was in such a hurry to get through the calls, I wasn't even going to let you answer them. Let's go to Richard quickly from the West Side. Richard, you're up now.
Yes, my son
his very first report card, it said that this school has received an F for the 2023-24 school year. And I was wondering where that criteria came from, that it was posted on his very first kindergarten report card. And then secondly, I was wondering, since I've heard that this is kind of an invention of the superintendent, what is preventing him from just increasing the grade level for that school without really any accountability from the parents or the academic success of the students? Wouldn't it look great after 5 years if an F-rated school goes up to an A or at least a B+?
Richard, thank you for that.
Yeah, so we have no input or control over the ratings. The ratings are come from TEA, and they're based on STAR scores, graduation rates, something we call college, career, military readiness for high schools, and of course exam, etc. So achievement gap, things like that are part of the accountability rating. So that rating comes from the state. We'll get new ratings in July, and the finals will be in August.
Okay, one last text here. Please give Mr. Miles the opportunity to address the DEI question in terms of caring for our children rather than the law. Very disappointed in his inability to advocate for our kids.
So we do a lot with regard to a continuum of care for our students. It's not just the nurses in the school. It's also the counselors. It's also the administrators. Let's not forget, they do a lot of work to care for kids in different ways that are not just academics. That's what makes good principals and APs. It's the office manager. But it's also things like Hazel Health. We have Hazel Health in every single school, so a child could get mental health and other physical health, not surgery, of course, but just minor health needs met through Hazel Health in each school, and we expanded that to every school. We also have the Sunrise Centers that are serving hundreds of thousands of kids every year, I think 120,000 this year, students and family members with needs. We also have community partners that help out. We have food banks in almost every school, clothing in almost every school. So there's a lot that we do to help kids, but it's a continuum. It's not just one thing.
Superintendent Miles, respectfully, your name will go down as one of the most controversial and polarizing names in the history of education in Texas. Do you feel like that is a fair assessment?
I used to bristle at controversial, but I've kind of embraced it because in order to do huge things, bold things, you have to do things that some people aren't going to like, and that by definition is controversial to some, right? That we prioritize the curriculum, and we made our own, so we spent money doing that to help kids, and we got the results to show for it. But that alone, would be controversial. So, yes, I'm a change agent, have been, probably will continue to be.
Superintendent Mike Miles, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll talk to a high school graduate about an app she developed to help blind students in her class. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
The city of Eagle Mountain, Utah is growing fast. So too is the price of housing.
I wish I would have bought 20 homes when we opened, because I'd be worth millions of dollars just in property gain values out here. It's gotten very expensive.
I'm Kai Rizdal. What all that growth means for the local economy next time on Marketplace.
Tune in tonight at 6:30 on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is investing in education, keeping a pulse on art and culture in the city, and embracing our community with diverse programs. Stay informed and inspired wherever you are, whenever you want it. Houston Public Media is Houston's public media. Learn more at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Houston Public Media is rooted in our community. We show up at school board meetings, city council votes, and neighborhood events.
That's how you stay informed about what's happening around you through deep local reporting that brings clarity and insight.
Your support powers this public service, so Greater Houston stays informed, connected, and safe.
Support local journalism right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Miller Outdoor Theater, presenting The Phantom and the Philharmonic Orchestra, featuring a hip-hop concert with orchestral accompaniment of strings, horns, and piano. This Saturday. More at milleroutdoortheater.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from IL Texas, helping to prepare students for leadership roles in the international community by emphasizing servant leadership, language immersion, and character building. More at iltexas.org.
Support comes from Moody Mansion, the restored 28,000 square foot mansion on Galveston's Broadway, furnished with original items and decor from the early 1900s. Open daily for tours. More at moodymansion.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, still a little bit on education. After just 17 years old, Crystal Yang founded the educational platform Audemy, which is already transforming how over 5,000 blind students learn. The platform offers 16 AI-powered games that teach blind and visually impaired students subjects like math, language, science, without the need for a screen. So listening, obviously. I think that's the Audemy part of this. Joining us now to tell us more is Crystal Yang, founder and CEO of the educational platform Audemy. Crystal, welcome to Hello Houston. I personally love what you're doing. I was shot in the eye with a BB gun when I was 13, and it's okay now, but I had to, both my eyes had to be covered for a week. So I was blind for a week, and I'll never forget it. It was traumatic. So your mic needs to go on, by the way. There you go.
Okay.
It was a traumatic moment for me.
Okay.
And so that's why I love what you're trying. So tell us what you're doing for blind kids.
Yeah, sure. So I'm building Audemy. It's an educational game platform for blind and visually impaired students. So I learned that over 70% of blind students were at least a grade level behind due to a lack of academic resources. And I'm a huge CS nerd, so I wanted to build a platform that was purely audio-based that could help blind students learn, and that's what I've done.
So why you? How come someone hadn't figured this out before? What was it that gave you that spark that, wait a minute, here's someplace I can apply?
Yeah, so the story's kind of funny. My friends and I love playing Wordle. We play every day. Of course.
Everybody
it's
loves
like a last
Wordle.
year thing, but we were the biggest fans.
So
And-
that's your current obsession. Is it?
No, I'm not that behind. This was last year, I'd say.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was blind and she wanted to play, but she was unable to since Wordle is a very visual game in nature. So I spent my summer building an audio-based version of Wordle. I used 2 AI algorithms. They're both speech-based. And the next school year, I brought it to her and she was able to play. And it was so amazing to be able to just use my CS nerd skills to create something
That's
cool.
amazing. So, as somebody who's a mom and I have my kids are at summer at home right now, I guarantee you they are not building AI apps or anything.
They're a little younger, though.
Yes. How do you think parents could get their children more involved in that type of mind frame and being interested in tech and things like that?
Yeah, I think first, promoting an innovative mindset. Whenever you have a problem you see in the world, there's always an opportunity to build it. When a kid says an insane idea that's targeting a problem in their community, just support it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a big opportunity for innovation now, and I think there's a lot of online resources to learn specifically tech. I know the words AI and building with AI sounds terrifying.
That was just where my question was going to go. You say AI, and there's a
Mhm.
bunch of people out there because it's in many ways been vilified. It's the evil empire. But actually, you used AI to help you through this.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful perspective to look at technology now and see how it can be able to help our community and help the people around us. Without AI, I think there would be no way for blind students to play with the audio-based medium, since the ability for a computer to understand voice, as well as the ability to generate questions and things like that, are all powered through AI.
So give us an example. I went to your website and I played some of the games.
Awesome.
And it's fun. It's like, the monkey has 7 fruits, 3 bananas, and 4 apples or whatever. So they're math games, language games for our listeners, and in a sense, our listeners are blind because they're listening to us. Describe how a student benefits from this. I mean, tell us the simplest of games and how that's different.
Sure. So we have 16 audio-based games. They cover a ton of topics, as you said, like math and language. They currently are targeted towards more younger students, so around pre-K to 5th grade. So, for example, one of my favorite games is called Car Counting. It's where you're able to count the number of cars that drive by, and you can hear an audio of a car driving by.
Right. That is so cool.
I know, it's so interesting. I think that's one of the favorites that people have. And yeah, it just teaches counting skills. And all the games are like that. There's kind of a fun little twist on some educational concept.
Yeah, so you ask a question and a visually impaired person answers it.
Yes.
And they get the answer right or not. But it's a great learning tool.
Okay, so where does all this brilliance go next? What are you looking at? What do you want to tackle next?
Yeah, I'm interested in creating a system more for teachers. So I'd love to do a data analytics thing where students are able to play the games, and then teachers can take a look at the students' progress and see where students can improve, as well as what categories and topics they're doing good at. I think that would be a really great tool for teachers, especially teachers who teach blind and visually impaired students. So that's the kind of general goal for Audemy. And me personally, I'm super interested in startups, so I'll keep building tech.
Is Audemy free for people?
Yes, it's 100% free. That's one of our goals, to keep education accessible, not only in terms of accessibility.
Are there any metrics, any measurements on the success of Audemy? I know you say you've helped 5,000 kids, at least 5,000. How do you get those metrics?
Yeah, so I keep track of it in terms of how many people have visited the website, and we've had a lot of students play. It's amazing. I've gone to a few schools, for example, the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and I've seen students play the games, and it's so amazing. We had this Mad Libs game where you can fill in the blank, and people would just fill in insane words and laugh. It was really great.
I'm assuming that there is within special education industry, there is an area for visually impaired. Are they embracing you? Are you a threat to them with new, fresh ideas? How do you feel it?
No, it's really great. Everyone's been super supportive. I think the community of accessibility and specifically schools for the blind and visually impaired are super accepting, and they're pretty tight-knit since it's a pretty small community. But they've been super helpful in helping me expand the game, and I'm super grateful for all the teachers that have been able to help out.
So they're hungry for new ideas, new ways to approach this for students?
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's great.
Thankfully.
Yeah. So what's next? What like Ernie was saying, you've got the blind kids. Are you going to continue with people who are challenged?
Yeah, I'll stick with this platform for blind and visually impaired students. I think there's still a lot of potential in being able to help blind students that I haven't fully done. For example, of course, the teacher system that I was talking about, and also making sure that the platform can cover more age groups, since right now it's more on the younger side.
Nice. So if somebody wants to learn about this, where can they go to your website, or how can I want to play some of these games?
Oh, they're fun.
I want to show my kids. Look at this. This is done by
Audemy.com. Is that?
It's Audemy.org. Yes.
Audemy.org. Very nice. By the way, Frank has been a Wordle word.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Unlike Ernie or Celeste. I'm just saying.
Crystal, I think a lot of people are worried about our future, but sitting here across from you, I think we're going to be just fine looking at the next generation of scientists.
And Thank you so much.
Thank you for all you're doing.
Use AI for good.
Yes.
Figure out how
Tech
to use
for
it.
good.
Yes.
Tech for good. Crystal Yang is the founder and CEO of the educational platform Audemy. Crystal, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into today's top stories of the day. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
87 degrees at the University of Houston. I'm Tiffany Taylor. High of 92 today with a 40% chance of heavy rain. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we continue diving into today's top stories, including President Trump deploying hundreds of active duty Marines to Los Angeles, as well as an additional 2,000 National Guard troops, along with the 2,000 already mobilized during the weekend. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We're also talking heart health and how men can stay on top of their heart health during the summer months.
And I'm Ernie Manus. Plus, we'll learn more about Finca Tres Robles, a hub for health, food access, and community connection in Houston's East End.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump visits Fort Bragg in North Carolina today to celebrate the Army's 250th birthday. NPR's Tamara Keith reports Trump will address troops and their families at the base ahead of a parade in Washington, D.C. this weekend.
Trump's visit to the largest U.S. Army base by population also allows him to celebrate a campaign promise kept. The Biden administration had renamed the installation Fort Liberty, but Trump quickly had it changed back.
We win world wars from Fort Robert E. Lee, from Fort Bragg, from all the different forts. And what do? We change the name of the forts because we want to be politically correct. So a lot of them we're changing back. You probably noticed Fort Bragg and others. But I think it's a time to celebrate our military.
The massive military parade featuring tanks and flyovers is on Saturday, which is also Trump's birthday. But he insisted it isn't about him. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
But today, Trump is under heavy criticism for his decision to deploy troops in Los Angeles. At the White House moments ago, Trump again defended the deployments to counter protests over federal immigration detentions.
If we didn't get involved, right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Los Angeles right now would be on fire.
Los Angeles experienced a fourth straight night of confrontations between police and protesters. LA authorities are hoping things are calmer today. Steve Futterman reports so far, no problems.
The most recent confrontation with police again came after protesters refused orders to leave. But the number of protesters was smaller than previous nights. Police fired tear gas and rubber bullets. Protesters threw water bottles and fireworks. Law enforcement is still most concerned about the evening hours. The ICE arrests still have many people like Dennis Cox upset.
Attacking them is immoral. We're a country that's supposed to welcome strangers, not attack them.
Despite the protests, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has continued to carry out additional detainments in the L.A. area. At least 2 of its raids took place at Home Depots. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
Critics accuse President Trump of manufacturing chaos with the deployments of members of the military. Gamers in Hong Kong could be accused of seditious activity if they download Reverse Front Bonfire. In the game, users role-play different ethnic groups or countries that historically have been oppressed by China. Hong Kong authorities say the game has seditious intent and is a national security threat. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Protests over the Trump administration's immigration policies broke out in Dallas and Austin last night. Marchers took to the streets of Houston over the weekend as our city gears up for more possible demonstrations. This all follows protests in Los Angeles that you've been hearing about on NPR. Emily Berman is a professor at the UH Law Center. She defined the First Amendment protections for protesters on Houston Matters this morning.
I think no one would argue that violence is protected. That form of protest is not protected by the First Amendment. And I think that should hold true regardless of the cause for which you are engaging in violence.
Governor Greg Abbott stressed in a social media post that violence will not be tolerated at demonstrations. 12 people were arrested in Austin last night. Meanwhile, violence is picking up in the Galleria area. Houston police are continuing to investigate a string of incidents. The most recent, a man who opened fire inside the Galleria Mall parking lot Saturday afternoon. Several shots were fired, but no reports of injuries in that incident. Last week, a man was shot and killed during a dispute in another Galleria parking garage. A spokesperson for the Galleria told ABC 13 dozens of active police and security personnel patrol the property 24/7, and they actively work with HPD regarding any criminal activity taking place. In sports, the Astros back on the field tonight, taking on the Chicago White Sox in the first of a 3-game series. First pitch is at 7:10. Houston is currently in first place in the AL West. Checking weather, partly sunny, 93 the high today. Showers and thunderstorms expected later this afternoon. More storms tonight. Otherwise, it'll be mostly cloudy with a low of 78. Right now, partly cloudy, 87 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Council for Interior Design Qualification, whose certified designers work to protect occupants through the design of code-compliant and accessible environments. Learn more at cidq.org/NPR.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Dun, dun, dun,
We made it to Tuesday.
Free hump day.
If you're not watching us, you're only getting half the show. We're
Half
over on
the
YouTube
fun.
streaming live. Half the fun, yes. So remember, go to YouTube, just look for the Houston Public Media channel, or just look for Hello Houston, and you can watch us live in the chat group there. We're carrying on also, so you can add comments and things there. Anyway, busy first hour of the show. The superintendent came here, as you were saying, Celeste, that he's limited in his media appearances, and we were fortunate to have him here and having him take your calls, comments, and questions, and we hope to have him back to do more of that.
And I think it's so important that, our listeners and viewers were very active in this conversation because we know Houstonians have a lot to say. And one thing that this affects is everybody. If you pay taxes, this affects
your tax dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The other funny thing is, the last time we had him on, we got a lot of comments and questions after the fact. So, folks, always remember, if there's a guest on the show you want to talk to, call then. Join us in the moment. Of course, we also like the feedback at talk@hellohouston.org after the fact. But in the moment, we're always open for your comments, thoughts, and questions, too. Speaking of what's going on around us, Frank, weather?
What is going
Have you
around?
seen it? Yeah, there's some storms out there right now, especially on the west side. But there's just another disturbance moving through. So I thought it would start around 1. It's an hour early, at least by my clock. But now that it's started, I would expect these storms to last through about 4 o'clock and then calm down tonight and then be back tomorrow morning. There's just going to be one wave after another.
Is this going to go on all week?
At least through Monday.
Oh,
I know.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like a good summer shower.
Well, you're going to get them, and you could see anywhere from 1 to 4 inches pile up over the next few days. So
Celeste's
just watch
garden
that.
needs watering.
My garden needs watering, and we're going to be talking about gardening coming up in a little bit.
You know, there's nothing like rainwater. You know, tap water off your hose just is not the same. It doesn't have the same nutrients that good old-fashioned rainwater has. So you're right. It's better to get rainwater.
My mom grew up in Chicago, and on their back porch, they used to keep a bucket out there, and they would wash their hair in rainwater. She would tell me it was like a kid, and I would always have this romantic vision of them washing in kind of like a feminine deodorant commercial.
Make oatmeal and put it all over your face.
Well, yesterday I got home after the show, and Evelyn, I noticed, was changed in different clothes, and I noticed Miss Gladys, her nanny, looked a little bit damp, and I said, well, what happened? And apparently Philip was watering with a water hose, everything.
And so he was watering your daughter so she would grow tall.
And our nanny.
It's not done if it's not overdone, right?
Exactly.
Talking about wonderful young people, we were just talking about a great app program to help visually impaired folks.
So cool.
And we got a congratulations. Such a kind and charitable heart you have. Speaking of Crystal, spread the joy. And that was from Larry. So thank you for that.
You want to read Alton from Northwest Houston?
You read Alton.
I'm a native Houstonian. Librarians were some of the most important people in my education. I consider Miles to be a crony of Governor Abbott. I think their whole goal is to weaken and privatize the public school system. It's nothing more than a right-wing evangelical plot to bring everything to one viewpoint. I would like to have heard him address that. I'm not going to disagree that there aren't some facets out there that are trying to get rid of DEI in our schools and try to mingle religion and education in the same classroom, where I don't think it should be. I think religion is a great place for church and church school and Sunday school. Mm-hmm. Unless you go to a school that is a religious school. I went to an Episcopal school for 4th grade. I loved it. I learned a lot. I don't think it hurt me in any way, but it was designed to teach me a little more about my spiritual education.
I've been to both private and public school, and so I see the power in both. And I think that parents should have the right to send their child to the school that they would like. I personally think that public school is extremely important, and regardless if my kids go to private school or don't, I believe that that is something that is crucial to our democracy and education. You know, when it comes to Superintendent Miles, I think sometimes we do have to, I have been outwardly critical about certain things within the intervention. I have seen certain things work personally in my own life with my daughter. But it's one of those things where he kind of addressed it, where he was like, there is no big, conspiracy. He's like, I'm going to follow the law. If the Texas, politicians pass something, I'm going to move it forward.
Yeah, but we still have kids there, and they're not politicians either. They're real kids with real problems and real emotions, and they need guidance. And some of these alliances and clubs out there, whether it's sexuality or just I look different than someone else does, there have been clubs and there have been teachers often in charge of those clubs to really say, you're part of the group. Mm-hmm. You may not be the part of every group, but you're part of this group, and you're loved and you're heard and you're seen. And when we get rid of those clubs, we're getting rid of a huge part of what growing up is all about.
Right. I think we talk about that often on the show, that education isn't just about the lessons you learn. It's about the experience of this whole process in schools, learning to think, learning to engage with other people, learning to express yourself and who you are. There's more to it than just test scores. I will go back to the comment from Alton, though, and from the times we have spent with the superintendent, he strikes me as someone who does want to be successful in his plan. And so to think that he would tear down a system that he has been put in charge of, he doesn't strike me as that kind of. But you may not agree with what his goal is. You may not agree with the way he wants to get there. But I believe he wants to be successful at being a superintendent.
And so far has been.
At what
let's face it, he's doing well.
Right.
But,
and again, and a lot of people are questioning, he said a couple of things that I found very interesting. Obviously, like I asked him about transparency. He did say, we have HISD now. A lot of people felt that HISD now was a way for him or for the district to go around the media. But clearly, he's not afraid to come on and take people's calls and talk directly to the people. I'm not obviously in any way, form, supporting or advocating. However, I am saying that it is good that we have a superintendent that is willing to take our calls directly. And
Dale Hunter from YouTube says, keep the religion in religious places and focus on education in the schools.
And Superintendent Miles said that. He said, I'm concerned about reading, writing, science, and math. That is his main concern. My issue is, he was like, well, librarians, we need to be teaching teachers how to, or students how to read. And I'm like, a part of that is the love of reading.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying a moment ago. My high school experience, a good deal of it was spent in the library with a love of the knowledge libraries hold.
Favorite
It
places.
was outside. You couldn't find that on a test score. But yes, my knowledge of things, my ability to read was influenced by the time I spent in the library. And the librarians were from elementary school on up, some of the most impactful people in my educational journey were librarians.
And even the space alone, to have a space where there are some kids that might not have a super peaceful home life, that might not have a moment of quiet. Kids come in just like adults with all different types of situations and experiences and backgrounds. And so libraries are such a crucial space for that.
Well, and to your point, some of the comments that we've had from people is that what do you do when you're the teacher that gets the classroom full of troubled kids and your salary and your job depends on making sure those kids do well, and you're like, well, wait a minute, sometimes it's the luck of the draw here. When what is Miles doing to make sure that all teachers sort of get an egalitarian treatment and that they all get sort of the same students? I don't know if that's a problem. We can't ask him everything in 45 minutes, but we can certainly have him back.
Yes.
We didn't even talk about school vouchers.
We didn't. Yeah,
there was so much.
There was a lot, and we also wanted to get everybody else's comments and questions in as well.
And if you've got comments, reactions, first of all, you can watch the interview back over on YouTube where it'll be, or you can get our podcast. We don't often talk about the podcast. There's two versions. There's the full show, and there's also a commuter cut. The commuter cut comes out about 3 o'clock each day, so you have a chance to hear an abbreviated version of the show if you'd like to listen. We're interested in your comments, thoughts on the conversation we had with Mike Miles. Send them to us at talk@hellohouston.org. Let's move into some of our headlines that we have time for. Celeste, lead us off.
Thanks, Ernie. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced on Monday he is removing all 17 sitting members of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replacing them with new members. The Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, ACIP, makes recommendations on the safety and clinical needs of vaccines. In a press release, the Health and Human Services said the Biden administration appointed all 17 sitting ACIP members, with 13 of those appointments occurring in 2024. Kennedy said replacing the sitting committee members would help restore public trust. A clean sweep is necessary to reestablish public confidence in vaccine science. Kennedy's statement continued. ACIP new members will prioritize public health and evidence-based medicine. The committee will no longer function as a rubber stamp for industry profit-taking agendas. What are your thoughts on the new vaccine committee? Is this needed to restore public trust, as Kennedy states? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
How much time do I have?
How much time?
I mean, the first thing that jumps out at me, new members. Who are these new members going to be? What are they actually going to have? What's their background? What's their knowledge? What's their education? What do they know about vaccines? The next thing that jumps out to me is restore public trust. Were we really sitting around very upset about this panel and thinking, wow, if we just had different folks on that panel, I'd have more trust in our science? No. And I think you know, when you cause a problem and then
Yikes.
solve the problem you cause, what really did you accomplish? There was no problem to start there with. We need vaccines. If you don't believe me, look at polio. We had polio. It ravished many people's lives and destroyed communities. A vaccine came. It got rid of it. We didn't have polio anymore. Guess what? It's popping up again. Why? We're not vaccinating people.
Look at the measles.
Sorry.
Look at the measles.
Measles. We can go on and on. Vaccines work, folks. I know I shouldn't get into this like this, but
Why?
you know.
I like it.
You?
I like
Why
this,
shouldn't you get
Ernie.
into it? You're absolutely right. Vaccines
I
work.
know,
It's
but-
proof. Talk about proof
Yes,
in the pudding.
it's science, and we try to base everything we do on this show on fact and actual factual information, what has been proven, what is truth. Science is a constantly evolving understanding of the world around us. So yes, we evolve our thought on it, but to always be going back and re-exploring things we have already settled does not benefit us. There's much more new problematic things on the horizon we need to worry about. There are new viruses and new things that will be attacking us. We have to be able to embrace the science we have already acknowledged works.
There are already viruses. You know, HIV vaccine has been very close, and all the funding, hundreds of millions cut for HIV vaccines for PrEP in African countries. And where do you think HIV started? It started in Africa. So you take all of these people in Africa off of PrEP, and now they have nothing to prevent it. So you're just going to have an explosion there again. Same thing with the bird flu. We were very close to a bird flu vaccine. All the funding taken away. So not only is it anti-vaccine, the vaccines that were so close are being eradicated.
Now, the Pollyanna in me could think, but maybe he's going to replace them all with wonderful scientists who are like Dr. Hotez, and folks like that will be on that. I hope. Write your senator. Write the CDC. Tell them what you want, who you want to represent you when it comes to that.
You know, I've got to take it back one step. And I feel like saying, excuse me, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you are a lawyer and a politician. I don't trust you. So why would I trust anybody that you're going to appoint? And listen, I am 100% about everybody needs to advocate for themselves when it comes to their health, especially when it comes to women. But there are some pillars to our well-being as a community, and vaccines are a proven one. These are not just made up. This is science that has been proven over and over and over again.
713-440-8870. Aga is on the line from Memorial City. Aga, where are you on this?
Hey, hi. My name is Aga Kuliev. I'm a practicing physician for 20 years in the Memorial City area, and I'm really shocked and appalled by actions of RFK Jr. He got the vaccines. If you look at his track record, he's always been anti-vaccine guy, and he's trying to change his narrative somewhat, trying to wear to the side, but it's in his core against vaccine. Vaccines save lives. You perfectly mentioned polio. We cured polio because of that. I cannot believe in 21st century we're having an outbreak of measles in Houston area, and what is being done with the vaccine board is going to hurt our healthcare future because it's going to create a lot of distrust. We had great trust in our vaccines. We're the ones who developed the COVID vaccine, the first ones ever. We developed all the vaccines. Our vaccine industry is perfect. So I don't see a need for overhauling it. I think what's being done right now is going to set our country behind for ages and ages, and this is very appalling.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Actually, I said it worse and you said it better. So thank you very much for calling in and sharing that with us. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know, 713-440-8870. Are you in favor of it, against it? We want to hear from all of our listeners.
And this is also very interesting because before his confirmation, RFK Jr. did say to the Health and Human Services that he'd leave the advisory committee on immunization practices alone.
Yeah.
And here we go.
And what's so funny is the committee will no longer function as a rubber stamp for industry profit-taking agendas. But when you get rid of 17 people and just replace them, that almost feels like a rubber stamp. delete, delete. And then you just hire whatever resume appeals to you based on their political persuasion.
We are going to take a break in just a moment, but please continue to share your thoughts and feelings on this topic with us, 713-440-8870. Don't forget, today is National Iced Tea Day and National Egg Roll Day. I feel like going out for a tall iced tea and a couple of egg rolls. There you go.
That's right. Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with cardiologist Dr. Wahaj Aman about ways to keep your heart healthy during the summertime. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The Middle, you may not be paying much attention to it yet, but a huge piece of legislation that would slash taxes for the wealthy, cut healthcare for the poor, and make a number of other big changes to federal policy is working its way through Congress. So before it becomes law, we want to know what you think about the so-called Big Beautiful Bill and what it would mean for you. That's our question next time on The Middle.
That's good.
Did you know 80% of our funding comes from listeners like you, right here in Houston? That's why your support is so important. When you give to Houston Public Media, you're investing in trusted news and educational programming that millions depend on daily. Every dollar you give makes a difference, ensuring this public service stays strong for everyone in our community. Help us support this mission. Give today at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8 at 7, Finding Your Roots featuring Broadway stars Leslie Odom Jr. and Nathan Lane. Then at 8, American Experience presents Surviving the Dust Bowl, followed at 9 by a new Frontline. Tonight on TV 8.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community with a variety of living options, from new construction, mature neighborhoods, and urban living, designed for any lifestyle. More at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here.
Support comes from Artec House with Rolling Stone Presents Amplified, the immersive rock experience, highlighting the history of rock and roll and featuring over 300 artists whose music changed the world. Tickets at artechhouse.com. Support comes from Miller Outdoor Theater, presenting The Phantom and the Philharmonic Orchestra, featuring a hip-hop concert with orchestral accompaniment of strings, horns, and piano. This Saturday. More at milleroutdoortheater.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We're having a lively show here today. Did you hear my voice crack on that one?
Lively.
Lively show.
Yeah, you and Peter Brady.
When it's time to change, then it's time to change who you are and what you're going to be. But we shouldn't be changing vaccine boards. That's I guess, where I've come down on that. You had education in the first segment, in the first hour of the show. I've got vaccines in the second hour of the show. We're both fired up here. Frank, you get to be fired up about men's health.
Well, there's a reason for that. I do have a Medicare card now. I know. So there you have it. And, the heart is so... we always think of heart attack, but the heart has there's a lot of different players. I know people that have gone through chemo, and that has really significantly affected their heart. June is Men's Health Month. The summer's a good time to be vigilant of one's health. It's so darn hot outside. High blood pressure, any underlying heart conditions that you may not know about during the extreme heat. You really got to stay on top of it. So to tell us more, we welcome Dr. Wahaj Aman, a cardiologist at Memorial Hermann and UTHealth Houston. Hello, Dr. Aman. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's just get Ernie's questions out of the gate. What are your thoughts on this vaccination board being fired and replaced by Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
Oof.
No, yeah.
There's a lot of data to support that vaccines do good, and we should do what the doctors say. Let's keep it
Let's
nice
try
and
that.
cool.
Yeah, let's let science and medicine do science and medicine.
Well, we do have though. I mean, we've had to recall very few, if any, vaccines. A lot of times they don't make it through FDA, but you don't hear about people saying, "Well, I hope you didn't get that vaccine because now you're a dead man." You don't hear that. You hear
no.
Yeah, you never
We
hear
don't
that.
hear that. Yeah,
we do a really
no.
great job with
It's just-
vaccines.
People forget how many lives that have been saved through the vaccine, because it's you never see that part, right?
Right.
So it's always like the one or two people who have the side effects, and then they make headlines.
There you
Well,
go.
Not
the one
thousands
thing
that are
that I
saved.
always go back to, we were doing a COVID show every single day during the pandemic, and we would announce the number of deaths each day. And if you chart that and then you see the introduction of the vaccine and the drop in numbers, there is no denying it was the vaccines that turned that around for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about what you're really here to
And,
talk
I mean, COVID
Happy to
and
talk
heart,
about anything.
COVID and heart health might still be an issue. I don't know. People have long-term COVID. Have they found any relation to heart issues with that?
So this is a different world post-COVID, right? We are seeing so many young people come in with all sorts of arrhythmias and this long COVID syndrome, which is just a lot of fatigue, lots of fast heart rate, a lot of tiredness. So we see this a lot now in younger people who had COVID, especially who had COVID multiple times. So every clinic we see like 2 or 3 people, young guys.
Let me stay on this for
and so it's a
one
little bit of a
second
challenge, yeah.
and ask, what do we actually know about long COVID? What do we know about what it is, what it affects, how it presents? How do you know if it's something that's affecting you?
So if you've had COVID, what we know is unfortunately not a lot. There's still a lot of data that's going to come out through the years. But what we do know is if you have these sort of ongoing lung issues like shortness of breath, if you have vague chest pains, and if you certainly have these weird tachycardia, palpitations, these all have been linked to long COVID that we're seeing more in a post-COVID era. Yeah.
Anything to do about it? I mean, I know there's probably no cure, but for instance, would you suggest that people continue to get the COVID vaccine so that if they've had long COVID, they don't get reintroduced to more COVID virus?
Certainly people who have had who are on high risk, like heart failure, like who are on multiple medications for blood pressure, diabetes, these are high risk folk, and then they are not somebody that you want to have them have COVID again. As far as medicine is concerned now, for these palpitations and such, there are some, but mostly it's lifestyle modification. And which is why this topic that we're talking about today as well is so important, is more than medicine. It's about how you lead your lifestyle, which is imperative and important.
And Dr. Aman, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. So oftentimes when we're looking at cardiovascular disease, especially when it comes to men, people automatically think, well, clearly they were living an unhealthy lifestyle. But there are other factors that can play into that. And what are some of the factors that affect cardiovascular disease in men that isn't necessarily an unhealthy lifestyle?
That's a great question. Yes, genetics, like with everything else, but certainly with heart disease, is so important. So if you had a family member who had a heart attack in their 40s. Now we're seeing heart attacks in people in their 30s. This is something to take very seriously. And I see people all the time with, who work out or their BMI is fantastic, body mass index is really good, but their cholesterol's through the roof. Their blood pressure sometimes is very, very high, despite, eating almost no salt. So genetics plays a huge factor. We should respect it and then make changes accordingly. I'm a big proponent of when anybody comes to me that we speak a lot about lifestyle first and optimize that. But if somebody's coming in with a really good optimal lifestyle, then let's talk about what medicines we can give you to help.
Okay, we go back and forth. My mother was a big red wine for heart health woman. Bless her heart. I need my red wine.
Surprise.
If you knew my mother, you'd understand. So where are we on that now? Alcohol use and heart disease or heart attacks?
Yeah, largely debunked, actually. All this antioxidant stuff now is sort of being thrown a little bit out of the way. I'm sorry to your mom.
Rest in peace.
Alcohol is honestly, I think it's a few years from me very confidently saying this, but I can say that it's going in the direction of smoking, in that there's just way more harm now than any benefit that we're seeing more and more with data comes out.
Well, you mentioned that. What about vaping? It seems like a lot of kids somehow think vaping is okay. I know.
So the good old days where you used to ask somebody who comes into your office, do you smoke? And they would say yes or no. Now I have to specify, do you smoke? No. Do you vape? Please tell me, because there's people think that there's a difference. The issue here is the devil we know and the devil that we don't know. And vaping, we have seen countless cases of acute lung injury. I've had patients in their 30s, like I said, just massive heart attacks. Only risk factor, vaping. So it's one of those things where the data is going to come in, and it's most likely going to show that it is as bad, if not, and sometimes worse than smoking, just because of the way it's regulated and such. It's just very loose, and so very readily available. Children are doing this now, and they make this in all these fancy flavors, and it is proposed as something that's very benign, but real life we've seen pretty horrific incidents from this.
Dr. Aman, so many times we hear prevention is key, but when we're looking at cardiovascular disease, what does prevention look like?
Okay, prevention starts at the grocery store. So Ernie. So when we go and for our grocery, if we leer too far away from the produce section, you know that something's going on there. We should have 80% to 90% of our food coming from the produce section. There's a lot of debate, organic, inorganic. I would just say fill up on veggies, fill up on fruit. And then your protein sources should come from lean meats like fish, chicken. And I'm not saying red meat is bad, but something in moderation. Obviously, I'm in Houston, Texas. If somebody tells you to stop your steaks, then
you're in trouble there.
Barbecue, Dr. Aman, barbecue.
That's
I've always heard
barbecue.
The easiest practice.
Again, in moderation, it's fine. But yeah, so that's where it starts, right? And then number two, I make it very easy. It's movement, right? So after 70, every 1,000 steps that you take decreases your chances of dying by 14%. And this is incredible. This is more powerful than any medicine I can give you. So movement and fix your groceries.
Yeah, if you want to keep moving, you got to keep moving. That's for sure.
That's right. Good rule I've always heard is in the grocery store, shop the perimeter, the outside. That's where the fresh and healthy foods are.
That's right.
Stay away from the chip aisle.
Anything that's coming in with a box. So these are the two rules. Anything that's coming in a box, not the best thing for you. And if you look at the ingredients and you can't pronounce it, probably not something you should be putting in your body.
Okay, I want to go to something else that all of us can pronounce now because it's always being advertised, and it's Ozempic and all of those kind of drugs. Started for one thing, moved to weight loss. Now it seems that they're prescribing it for everything. What do we know about it, and is it this wonder drug?
So I would want to tell you that it's not, but it has some really good data supporting it, especially when it comes to heart disease and heart failure. So within heart failure, there is this type of heart failure where your heart function is normal, but the heart doesn't relax all the way. And this is particularly in people who have a little bit of a higher BMI weight, and it's associated with sleep apnea and things of that nature. So people who take these medicines, they have done better. They have felt better. They are outside of the hospital more, and in some cases even live longer. So there is something to this. Again, it is all probably connected to weight loss, but just given the fact that we're living in this sort of pandemic of obesity, probably.
I think, sir, it's also somewhat about eating more right. I'm on it, and my glucose is now like 98, and my cholesterol is perfectly normal. The good stuff is in the right, and the bad stuff is right. So I'm kind of all for it as far as the benefits of the side effects.
If you are taking real quick, if you are taking Ozempic, is it something once you start taking, you need to remain on the rest of your life? It shuts down other things and the medication takes off, or can you come back off it easily enough?
You can come off of it. Now, provided, so I don't know, is it who takes the medicine? I'm sorry, I'm
Frank.
blanking on your name.
It looks like
Frank.
it should be me, but it's Frank.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. So I myself tried it just because I got a sample and I wanted to try it. I woke up, just the thought of food was not very appetizing to me for like the first 3 days that I took this medicine. And what that happens is that leads to some changes in the way you approach food. And if those things stick around, then hopefully, and you achieve your weight loss, then my hope is that you can come off. And, a lot of these times it's like, why are you taking it in the first place? If it is for like diabetes and such, then that's probably a long term. But if it was just for weight loss, and if you achieved weight loss and then your mindset changed towards food, hopefully you can come off.
Dr. Aman is a cardiologist at Memorial Hermann and UTHealth. You can join the conversation by giving us a call at 713-440-8870. We have Lee on the line right now from Sugar Land who has a question for Dr. Aman. Lee, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi. Again, my name is Lee. I do appreciate you taking my question. My LDL used to be pretty high. It was, I think, around 120. It's been brought down with rosuvastatin to about 70. My doctor, my cardiologist, wants to drop it further because of the history of heart attacks in my family. But I'm a little bit worried because I also hear that dropping the cholesterol down, way down, can cause dementia or Alzheimer's. Is there any evidence to that effect?
Thank you, Lee.
So thank you for your question, Lee. No good data to suggest this, that statins, these days it's a very hot topic, that statins lead to dementia. There is no good data. In fact, the little data that we have actually says that low LDL and statins actually help with memory and cognition. Now, with everything in medicine, there's no, this is the era we live in where we make everything black and white. If you have symptoms of memory loss or cognitive decline, and you otherwise have no other symptoms and reasons for that, I will take that seriously. But in the absence of that, given your family history, it is probably imperative that you do have a very low LDL. Yeah.
And I want to remind our listeners, always check with your own doctor or medical professional, that our doctor on the radio can give you generalized thoughts and understanding of the science, but do not take that as a medical diagnosis. There you go.
There we go.
Sounds good.
Dr. Wahaj Aman is a cardiologist at Memorial Hermann and UTHealth Houston. Dr. Aman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. It's such a great time.
Thank you.
So we have been monitoring and have been following the latest happening out in Los Angeles. And people in Los Angeles have taken to the streets for the fourth consecutive night to protest ICE immigration raids in response to President Trump deploying hundreds of active duty Marines to the city, along with an additional 2,000 National Guard troops on top of the 2,000 he mobilized over the weekend. The Pentagon says it will work with troops to protect federal buildings and agents. We have seen that there has been some back and forth between President Trump claiming this latest deployment is intended to control the protest. However, California's Governor Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass are calling this move an unnecessary escalation. Joining us now is reporter Gigi Graciette from Fox 11 KTTV in Los Angeles. Gigi, thank you for joining us on Hello Houston.
Good morning and hello Houston from downtown Los Angeles.
Gigi, can you give us an update on how things are currently right now in downtown Los Angeles?
Well, what we've seen is during the day, things tend to be calm. The protesters are not out, and thankfully the looters and those causing chaos on the streets of downtown are not out. So the daytime hours are being spent sort of to regroup. Business owners that were looted overnight are tallying up the damage done to their businesses. Painting crews are out trying to paint over all the graffiti. Almost every business, every wall, even the outside of LAPD was defaced with graffiti. Even our cathedral Our Lady of the Angels had graffiti all over the exterior walls. And what we've been covering this morning is the damage done to business owners. And we're not talking only corporations like CVS and the Apple Store and Adidas that you may also have there in Houston. We're also talking about small mom and pop businesses that were looted overnight and are taking this hit very hard.
Gigi, to clarify, from your point of view, as I understand it, when we see the looting and we see the graffiti and the vandalism, those traditionally aren't the protesters that are coming out. It seems to be another wave that comes in when they see opportunity. Is that what you're seeing?
That's what law enforcement sources tell us, and what we usually see with these large-scale protests, that there are agitators, there are people that just want to cause chaos. There are people who do not like the police or the authority or other things, and then they come in and they just sow discord. And then there are the ones who take advantage that police are busy with all the legitimate protesters, people who simply want to exercise their right to free speech. So they want to take to the street, and they generally are peaceful. Yesterday we saw thousands of union workers take to the streets of Los Angeles. Tonight, there will be an interfaith rally at one of the main parks here in downtown Los Angeles, which obviously is expected to be very peaceful as people gather in prayer for peace, precisely. But there are these splinter groups, these factions, but there are dozens and dozens of them. I mean, we had one jewelry store looted, and as police responded, they were reporting over 100 looters inside one business.
Wow.
Hey, Gigi, it's Frank Billingsley. Quick question here. In your experience with this protest that we're seeing right now, have you come across a single protester that is paid to be there?
I have not personally. I've not interviewed anyone. I've seen families. I've seen families with children. I've seen immigrants. I've seen people who are not immigrants or don't identify as being a descendant of any particular other country outside of the United States that are here to support immigrant rights. And of course, there are some folks who come out and they support what ICE is doing and what President Trump is doing, but they are, in this particular case here right now, in the minority.
I want to take a little step back for a moment. And when it came to Friday, the words started coming out that things were under control. There were protests, there were people en masse, but the conventional wisdom coming out of government employees in California was this was okay. They had a handle on it. By bringing in the National Force, by bringing in the National Guard, that it escalated the situation. From your point of view, from your perspective, what can you tell us?
Well, that has definitely been the talking points for both Mayor Karen Bass. She's mayor of the city of Los Angeles with a population just under 4 million people, and Governor Gavin Newsom. He called President Trump's decision to bring in the National Guard reckless. He said it was not about immigration. This was about command and control. And obviously, the governor and our local officials have been very, very outspoken against the presence of the National Guard here. And now we have Marines here. About 700 Marines are believed to have arrived in Los Angeles already. They came from 29 Palms, a base about, 2 hours or so outside of L.A. We have not seen them on the streets of Los Angeles. We did see a Black Hawk fly over L.A. yesterday. We have not seen the Marines. We believe they're probably staged at one of our bases outside of the city of Los Angeles. But that has been the talking point, that this just has escalated the situation. And then you have the looters, and you have that.
Let me hold you there for a second. You said that's been the talking point, and that's been the word coming out. But from your personal reporting and what you've seen, does it support that the escalation was due to the presence of these additional troops, or do you feel from what you've seen it was headed that direction?
Unfortunately, we've seen this happen before. We saw this happen with the riots. We saw this happen in 2020 with the George Floyd protests, that when folks take to the street legitimately with a grievance, a cause, that other people will take advantage of it and leave behind a trail of destruction. And that's what's happening again. Whether that would have happened without the National Guard, I don't know. I do know that folks on the street are very angry about it. The legitimate, let's call them the legitimate protesters, they don't like the idea that the federal government has sent. They didn't like the federal agents, the ICE agents coming in. So you can imagine they don't like the National Guard, and they don't like the idea of our Marines being deployed to try to keep the peace here.
And speaking of that, Gigi, you mentioned that there have been 700 Marines have arrived in the area. What are local officials saying is their next move and the plan moving forward?
You know, Governor Gavin Newsom was set to file that lawsuit against the federal government. Today we had a press conference in D.C., I believe, with representatives from California, all of them speaking out against it. But they don't seem to have the power to stop it. So the Marines will see what happens tonight. It's when things get dark, around 5 o'clock. Well, it doesn't get dark till about 7 o'clock here. But around 5 o'clock, you start to see people coming out onto the streets of L.A. And then it sort of deteriorates from there under the night hours. Today we had looting until about 5 o'clock in the morning. That was the time that the last looters that we have logged anyways, that left downtown Los Angeles. So we're all sort of waiting with bated breath about what will happen tonight.
Gigi Graciette is a reporter for Fox 11 KTTV in Los Angeles. Gigi, thank you for joining us on Hello Houston, and you're always welcome. You always have a home here at Houston Public Media.
And stay safe.
And stay safe, Gigi.
Thank you very much.
Coming up after the break, we'll talk about Small Places, a flagship garden. Y'all know how much I love gardening.
Oh, yeah.
Finca Tres Robles. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Homelessness reached a record high in 2024. Among the fastest growing groups, seniors. The number of homeless seniors is estimated to triple in the next 5 years, a surge that comes amid rising housing costs and an aging population. We look at how older Americans are uniquely affected by housing insecurity and why many are experiencing homelessness for the first time. That's next time on 1A.
It's more important than ever to stay informed. That's why Houston Public Media delivers well-researched news that's free for everyone.
And right now, your support helps make sure it stays that way. No subscription, no paywall, just news that's here when you need it.
Give today to keep yourself and your community informed, no matter what the future holds.
Make your donation now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Serverless Solutions, aligning businesses with technology, including cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and cloud-based infrastructure. More information is available at serverless-solutions.com. Support comes from electricityplans.com, helping Houstonians find electricity plans based on home energy usage, with tools to compare rates. Enrollment details and more at electricityplans.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Gulf Coast Blood. The need for blood is constant. Giving on an ongoing basis helps ensure blood is always available for patients in local hospitals. Info on locations to donate blood is at giveblood.org.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Small Places is a nonprofit urban farm based in Houston's East End. Their flagship site, Finca Tres Robles, is a hub for health, food access, and community connection. Their site also includes an education center, a community pavilion, neighborhood food access programs, as well as a new farm store. Joining us now to tell us more about Finca Tres Robles is Tommy Garcia-Prats, co-founder and executive director of Small Places. Tommy, welcome to Hello Houston.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I am personally very excited to have you
know.
here, Tommy.
Anybody who gets down to the soil.
Getting our hands in the earth. Well, I have to ask you, Finca Tres Robles, where did that name come from?
Yeah, so that's Spanish for Three Oaks Farm. And we started our original farm in 2014 in the East End. It was a vacant lot that had been vacant for almost 20 years, but there was nothing there but these three huge, beautiful oak trees. And so something that was important for us was to find a name that spoke to the physical place, because farm's so much about being place-centric. And then, trying to build relationship with our immediate community, which is the East End, which is a primarily historically Latino community. So,
so there you are.
Spanish.
But
There you go.
People understand. You're saying that there was just three big oak trees. I mean, to start a full farm, building it literally from ground up, what was that process? And why do you feel that neighborhood food access programs are so important?
Yeah, it was interesting listening to Dr. Hermann speak about just
food.
What to eat. The best
healthy lifestyle.
Better than any medicine that he can prescribe is having good food.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is part of our story of starting the farm, of me having farmed for a little bit and then moving back to Houston and seeing communities lacking basic amenities to be healthy. And what we saw in communities like the East End is people want to be healthy, but the choices that they're given really aren't choices that support that. And so part of our farm initiative is how do we do something at the neighborhood level, at the community level, that starts to give people better options.
But it's more than just growing things. It's the educational component to it. It's the outreach that goes with it. It's a lot more than just
It's a lot more than farm, and I think that's why these sorts of projects can be very challenging.
Yeah.
Because it requires us to know, one, farming on its own is really hard. That's why not a lot of people do it.
I hear you, Tommy.
But on top of that, it's taken us a lot of time. We weren't born and raised in the East End, even though we're from Houston.
Right.
So when two young bearded white guys move into the neighborhood, people are curious and suspicious, and it's really taken us time to build trust. But our programs, our field trips, our classes, we host events and we rent the space out. That all came from people coming to the farm and saying, we want to be here. We want to bring our kids here. We want to host an event here. And so it's really grown organically by us just trying to be good listeners, wanting to share the space. I'm from Houston. I didn't grow up farming. I don't have a background in sustainable agriculture. I got it by working on a farm and it changing my life and wanting to come back to Houston and share that experience with others.
So you've got the three big oak trees, and it looks to me like the farm is about the size of a football field. Would that be right?
Yeah, it's about an acre, a little less than an acre.
And then this beautiful, I guess you would call it a farmhouse, but it's really nice.
Yeah, so the original farm, we farmed on 1.25 acres of land 1 block away from our new farm space. We couldn't build any permanent structures. So it's a big upgrade to have the space, the facilities that we have on the new farm. But a big part of that is a farm needs more than just a space to grow food. We need space for our farmers to wash and package the vegetables, to make sure that they come out nutritious and we can get, have the longest shelf life. But then having a store, having our classes, and then a space to host our events, it's really, to your point, Ernie, it's more than just growing food.
Yeah. I'm curious, though, how much output do you get from this farm? What are we talking?
Yeah, when we're at full production, we'll be doing 30,000 pounds of food a year.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. Like what do you grow?
Seasonal vegetables. So right now we're kind of going out of the spring season into what I call the inferno. We're wrapping up our green beans, tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, and getting into okra, eggplant, long beans, some of the things that actually tolerate and grow well in the heat. And then once it cools off, carrots, beets, radishes, turnips, all your greens.
So, and where do you sell it? Restaurants, to people?
Yeah,
farmers markets?
From the beginning,
new farm store?
Yeah, so we have a farm store now, but something that was important to us at the beginning is selling and distributing direct to customers. How do we get our food into the home, people's homes? So restaurants have been super supportive of us, but we've always wanted to figure out how do we get this directly into our neighbors' households? And it's harder than you might think. It's really taken us a long time to build relationships, develop different programs, and really to meet our community where they are. Like, people know us because we get off the farm. We're at civic club meetings, civic association meetings. I live in the neighborhood, so they see me out and about at other events. And so we've been able to build relationships with people. And so they want the food. And our neighborhood food access program, part of that program is home deliveries. So beyond just like affordability, it's like transportation's a challenge in our community. So really taking out more barriers and taking that on as our responsibility as an organization to bring food, like the highest quality food, into people's households, super important to us.
So is this a community garden? So if people are like, I want to, because my girl here there, Keisha, is asking me for tips and tricks. And so if somebody wants to learn more about this, where can they go?
Yeah, I mean, they should go to our website, smallplaces.org, or follow us on social media at Finca Tres Robles. We are not a community garden. We have a full staff that takes care of the farm. That's how we produce 30,000 pounds of food a year. We have an apprenticeship program. So right now we have 2 young people who are full-time salaried staff to learn how to farm.
So I've been talking, I say gardening. What is the difference between gardening and farming? Real quick, Tommy.
For me, it's mentality. Like, this is a professional endeavor, and we take it very seriously. And if you're going to run a farm business, you got to know how to.
And you got to grow a beard.
Tommy Garcia.
You don't have to grow a beard, but it
comes.
Yeah.
Tommy Garcia-Prats is the co-founder and executive director of Small Places. Tommy, thank you for joining us on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening, engaging, and chatting with us today on Hello Houston. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Baylor College of Medicine, creating tomorrow's medicine today. Known for their medical research and innovation, Baylor College of Medicine is a proud sponsor of Houston Matters with Craig Cohen, Monday through Friday at 9.